Mia Harper has always been known in Sweetwater, a small town in the heart of Texas, as the girl with the easy smile and generous heart. Since her father died in a car accident 5 years ago, Mia had devoted herself entirely to caring for her mother, Evelyn, whose health was rapidly deteriorating due to a rare neurological disease. At 23, Mia's life revolved around the worn walls of the small house her father had built with his own hands. Her days were filled with doctor visits, trips. The house where Mia lived, although modest, was full of memories. The family photographs on the walls told the story of an unbreakable love, a happy childhood and a united family, now fragmented by pain. Life in Sweetwater, with its quiet streets and caring neighbors, offered little solace for the young woman who had sacrificed her own dreams to be by her mother's side. Mia was a talented pianist with a guaranteed scholarship to a prestigious music school in Austin, but she never left the city. On a hot summer afternoon, while Mia was preparing lunch for her mother, a luxurious car stopped in front of her house. It was a vehicle that clashed with Sweetwater's simplicity. A man in an impeccable gray suit, dark glasses, and a serious expression came out of the car. It was Dr. Ethan Wallace, a renowned doctor from New York, known for his competence and also for his coldness. He had arrived in the city for a temporary stay, seeking refuge from the stress of urban life. That day, he was on HO. Ethan didn't know what had drawn him to that particular house. Maybe it was the melancholy that seemed to emanate from the windows, or the shadow of sadness that cast itself over the place. Moved by an impulse he himself didn't understand, Ethan approached the door and knocked. Mia answered, surprised to see a stranger, especially someone who seemed to belong to a completely different world than hers. "Good afternoon," Ethan said, taking off his sunglasses and revealing piercing blue eyes. "Sorry to intrude. I was looking for the local clinic and got lost. Could you help me?" Mia watched him for a moment before responding. "Of course, sir. The clinic is 2 blocks away on the right." Ethan thanked him, but instead of leaving, he remained still, as if he was pondering something. He noticed the shadow of tiredness in Mia's eyes, the traces of concern marked on her young face. "May I ask, how are you?" The question caught Mia by surprise. It wasn't common for strangers to show interest in his life. "Yes, I'm fine, thank you," she replied, trying to smile. But there was something about Ethan's presence that made her feel comfortable continuing. "My mom is sick, so life has been a little difficult lately." The doctor looked at the half-open door and glimpsed the inside of the house. There was a woman lying on the couch, almost motionless, with a blanket pulled up to her neck. "Your mother?" Ethan hesitated, wondering if he should offer help. "Can I take a look? I'm a doctor." Mia, although surprised by the offer, felt something inside her tell her she could trust him. With a nod, she led him to her mother. Evelyn was pale, her eyes closed, but she was breathing softly. Ethan approached carefully, his expression softening as he examined the woman. He spent a few minutes asking Mia questions about her mother's condition, making mental note of the symptoms she described. "She needs intensive care," Ethan said finally, with a voice full of compassion that he rarely used in his usual practice. "There are treatments that can improve her quality of life, but it will require resources that are not available here in Sweetwater." Mia felt a lump form in her throat. She knew that the necessary treatments were expensive and that the local healthcare system was limited. The only thing that kept her from falling apart was her deep love for her mother and the responsibility she felt to care for her. "I would do anything to help you," Mia whispered, more to herself than to Ethan. Ethan saw the determination in Mia's eyes, and something inside him changed. He was a man who always separated his work from his emotions, but the connection he felt with Mia and her mother was instant and unbreakable. "Let me help," he said, more determined than ever. "I'm not just here to escape my life in New York. Maybe I came here for something bigger." And so Mia and her mother's lives took an unexpected turn. Ethan began making regular visits to their home, offering medical care that Sweetwater could never provide. Over time, he became involved not only in Evelyn's recovery, but also in Mia's life, who slowly began to open her heart to him. The transformation that was beginning to take place in Mia's life, however, was accompanied by deep internal conflicts. both for her and for Ethan. What began as an act of kindness and empathy began to transform into something more complex and difficult to control, with confusing feelings emerging between the young woman and the doctor, which would set them on a path that no one could predict. The weeks passed quickly after Dr. Ethan Wallace arrived in Mia's life. His presence brought new hope to the house, something Mia hadn't felt in a long time. With his frequent visits, Ethan monitored Evelyn's health carefully, adjusting her treatment as needed and ensuring that she received the best medical attention possible, even though she was so far from a major medical facility. But Evelyn's physical improvement contrasted with the growing emotional turmoil Mia felt toward Ethan. Mia couldn't deny the gratitude she felt for him. After all, Ethan was offering his time and knowledge without asking for anything in return. However, the more he became involved in their lives, the more Mia began to realize that the feelings she had for him went beyond gratitude. There was an undeniable attraction between them, something she couldn't explain, but also couldn't ignore. Every time Ethan smiled at her, or touched her lightly to comfort her, Mia felt her heart beat faster. At this say, Ethan, for his part, was battling his own demons. His career in New York was marked by success and recognition, but also by a lonely and empty life. His decision to flee to Sweetwater was motivated by emotional exhaustion, a desperate need to disconnect from his cold, mechanical routine. When he met Mia and Evelyn, something awakened in him, a sense of purpose he hadn't felt in years. And even though he wouldn't admit it, Ethan knew that his feelings for Mia were becoming deeper and deeper. One day, after consulting with Evelyn, Ethan and Mia decided to walk through the field around the house where the wildflowers were beginning to bloom. The late afternoon sun bathed the landscape in golden tones, creating an almost magical atmosphere. They walked side by side, not saying much, just enjoying each other's company. But the silence between them was filled with unspoken emotions. "Mia, have you thought about what you're going to do when your mother gets better?" Ethan asked suddenly, breaking the silence. Mia looked at him, surprised by the question. "I don't know. I guess I never gave it much thought. My life has been so focused on taking care of her that I can't imagine what will come next." "You deserve to think about yourself too," Ethan said with a serious look. "I know you love your mother and that you do everything for her, but you're still young. You have a life ahead of you, dreams to fulfill. You can't forget that." Mia lowered her head, feeling the weight of Ethan's words. She knew he was right, but the idea of allowing herself to think about a future for herself seemed selfish. "I wanted to study music so much," he confessed, his voice low. "But that seems so far away now. How can I worry about that when my mother needs me?" "Because you matter too, Mia," Ethan replied, placing his hand gently on her shoulder. "I know this is hard to accept, but you're not alone in this. I'm here to help, and I want you to know that you don't have to carry this burden alone." Mia looked at him, and in that moment something broke inside her. For the first time in years, she allowed the tears to fall. "I'm so tired, Ethan," she admitted, her voice broken by crying. "I feel like I'm losing a part of myself with each passing day." Ethan pulled her close, holding her in a tight hug. "I know, Mia, and I'm here for you. You don't have to face this alone anymore." The hug lasted longer than either of them expected, and when they finally broke apart, they both felt an even stronger connection, one that was no longer possible to ignore. However, that moment also brought a new conflict. Ethan knew his feelings for Mia were growing in a way that could make things even more complicated for both him and her. He was much older, from another world, and knew that a relationship with Mia could be frowned upon, especially by those who knew him only as a cold and dissy. Complications began to arise when rumors about Ethan's presence at Mia's house spread throughout Sweetwater. The small town where everyone knew each other was quick to ask questions and raise suspicions. At the convenience store, the gas station, and even the church, people began whispering about the big city doctor and his strange closeness to young Mia Harper. These rumors reached Mia's family, especially her aunt, Marjorie, a strict and religious woman who did not approve of the idea of. Marjorie decided to confront Mia about the matter. "Mia, I'm worried about what I'm hearing," she said one afternoon as she helped care for Evelyn. "People are talking about you and this doctor. You know these things can tarnish your reputation and his as well." Mia turned red with embarrassment and anger. "Aunt Marjorie, he's just helping us. He's a good man and I'm grateful for everything he's done for Mom. People don't have the right to judge." "I know he's a good man," Marjorie said, softening her tone. "But what I'm saying is that you need to be careful. I don't want you to get hurt or for the city to start looking at you differently." Mia was silent, but her aunt's words echoed in her mind. She knew there was truth in them. What was happening between her and Ethan was complicated, and the feelings that were beginning to emerge could lead to unpredictable consequences. Meanwhile, Ethan also felt the pressure of the rumors and began to distance himself from Mia, fearing that his involvement could hurt her. He began to avoid frequent visits and limited his contact, focusing only on Evelyn's health. But this distance only made the pain grow inside Mia, who missed Ethan more than she ever imagined. The days turned into a dangerous emotional game where Mia and Ethan, each in their own way, fought against how they felt. Mia tried to focus on her mother and daily care, but the void Ethan left was impossible to fill. On the other hand, Ethan, who had always prided himself on his ability to control his emotions, felt himself falling apart. He couldn't get Mia out of his mind, even though he knew that moving forward with his feelings could be disastrous for both of them. The tension finally came to a head on a stormy night. Ethan, unable to bear the distance, decided to visit Mia. He found the young woman sitting on the porch, wrapped in a blanket, watching the rain falling heavily. When she saw him, her heart sped up. "Ethan," she began before he could say anything. "Why did you stay away? I thought we were friends, that I could count on you." Ethan approached slowly, stopping in front of her. "Mia, I walked away because I care about you. I didn't want to make your life more complicated." "But you complicated it, Ethan," she said, her voice shaking. "Because now I miss you more than I can explain, and it hurts." Ethan's eyes were filled with regret and conflict. "Mia, I'm not the right man for you. I'm much older, from a different world. You deserve someone who can give you everything I can't." Mia shook her head, tears mixing with the rain on her face. "But you gave me more than I could ever ask for. You gave me hope, Ethan, and I think I'm in love with you." The confession left Ethan speechless. He knew this was the point of no return, where any decision could change everything. He wanted so badly to return Mia's love, but he also knew that the weight of this decision could be overwhelming. And then, without thinking about the consequences, he leaned over and kissed her. It was a long kiss, full of contained feelings, which finally exploded into a storm of emotions. In that moment, all doubts and fears were swept away, leaving only the warmth of two burning hearts, united by what seemed like an inevitable destiny. But fate, as always, had its own plans, and what seemed to be the beginning of something beautiful and new, in fact, was just beginning to reveal the true challenges that lay ahead. That kiss in the storm marked the beginning of something new and unexpected in Mia and Ethan's lives. In the days that followed, they tried to ignore the worries and doubts that once tormented them, focusing only on how they felt about each other. For Mia, each encounter with Ethan was an escape from the harsh realities of her life, a chance to dream of a different future, one where she was not just her mother's caretaker, but also a passionate young woman with hopes and desires of her own. Ethan, on the other hand, was torn between the happiness Mia brought and the weight of his responsibilities and his past. The age difference and their different origins continued to loom over him, reminding him that what he had with Mia, however true it was, might not survive the real world. Even so, he allowed himself to live in the present, enjoying every moment with her. However, real-life complications soon intervened. One day, while Mia was at the local grocery store, Ethan received an unexpected call. It was from the hospital in New York. His mentor and friend, Dr. Robert Harrison, was seriously ill and had requested that Ethan return immediately to help him manage his practice. The news fell like a bomb. Ethan knew he had responsibilities in New York, that he couldn't just abandon his life and career. But the thought of leaving Mia and Sweetwater tormented H. That night he decided to tell Mia. They met at her house, where Evelyn, noticing the tension between the two, discreetly retreated to her bedroom, giving them privacy. Ethan held Mia's hands, his heart heavy with what he needed to say. "Mia, I got a call today," he began, his voice low and full of regret. "I need to go back to New York. A friend of mine is very sick and needs me." Mia felt the ground disappear beneath her feet. Although I knew this moment would come, the reality of losing Ethan was a shock. "When are you going?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "In 2 days," Ethan replied, seeing the pain in Mia's eyes. "I didn't want to tell you like this, but I couldn't just leave without telling you how much it hurts me. I don't want to leave you, Mia, but my duty calls." Mia took a deep breath, trying to control her emotions. She knew Ethan was right, that he needed to go, but that didn't make things any easier. "I understand, Ethan. You have your responsibilities, but I'm going to miss you." Ethan pulled her into a hug, feeling his heart sink. "Me too, Mia, more than you can imagine." The two spent that night together, talking about everything and nothing, as if trying to prolong the last moments they had. But as much as they wanted to freeze time, morning arrived, bringing with it the inevitability of departure. 2 days later, Ethan was ready to leave. The taxi that would take him to the airport waited in front of Mia's house. She was next to him, with a heavy heart and teary eyes. "Promise you'll write to me," she said, trying to smile even though her heart ached. "I promise," Ethan replied, stroking her face one last time before turning around and getting into the car. The taxi drove off, and Mia stood in the driveway, watching him disappear into the distance, feeling like a part of her life was being ripped away along with it. The next few weeks were difficult for Mia. Ethan's absence was a hole in her life that she didn't know how to fill. Evelyn, always perceptive, tried to comfort her, but knew that her daughter needed to go through this grief alone. Mia threw herself into caring for her mother, trying to distract herself, but the days seemed long and empty. Ethan kept his promise to write. His letters were full of affection, but they also brought news that Mia feared. He was busy at the clinic, and his friend's condition demanded more and more of his time and energy. Still, he promised he would return to Sweetwater as soon as he could. Mia read and reread each letter, keeping them like treasures, but she knew something was changing. The distance between them seemed to grow every day. Then an unexpected event occurred, changing everything. One afternoon, while Mia was at the grocery store, a new patient arrived at the local Sweetwater clinic. She was a woman in her 30s, well-dressed and with an aura of sophistication that contrasted with the simplicity of the city. She introduced herself as Claire Montgomery, and although her presence caused an uproar, it was her story that shocked everyone. Claire was from New York and was looking for Ethan Wallace. She claimed to be his wife. The news spread like wildfire through Sweetwater. Everyone was shocked, especially Mia, who heard the rumor while she was still in the market. His head swam as he tried to process the information. Claire Montgomery? Ethan's wife? He had never mentioned anything about being married. Mia felt betrayed, confused, and most of all, heartbroken. She ran home where Claire was waiting for her, sitting in the living room with Evelyn, who looked equally astonished. Claire stood up when she saw Mia, her blue eyes cold and calculating, examining the young woman from top to bottom. "You must be Mia," Claire said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "I'm Claire, Ethan's wife." Mia felt her world fall apart. "Wife?" was all he could say, his voice coming out in a whisper. "Yes," Claire confirmed without any hesitation. "Ethan and I have been married for almost 5 years. We've had some problems recently, which led him to Sweetwater, but now I've come to bring him back home where he belongs." The shock was followed by a wave of anger and pain. Mia wanted to scream, demand explanations, but the words wouldn't come. She just looked at Claire, who seemed to feel victorious for bringing the truth to light. Ethan, the man she had fallen in love with, had hidden something so important, something that changed everything. Claire continued, her voice sharp. "I knew he was here, but I didn't realize he'd have someone like you to distract him. You better know that Ethan is mine. Always has been and always will be. And no matter what he's said or done, he'll come back to New York with me." Mia, feeling betrayed and humiliated, tried to maintain her composure. "I think you should leave," she said finally, her voice cool and controlled. Claire gave one last look of disdain before standing up. "As you wish. But Ethan will know I was here, and he will know what you heard." After Claire left, Mia broke down. Evelyn tried to comfort her, but words weren't enough to heal the deep wound in her heart. She felt used, like every moment she shared with Ethan was nothing more than a lie. Ethan wrote days later explaining his situation. He admitted that Claire was his wife, but that the marriage was on the rocks long before he arrived in Sweetwater. He didn't want to complicate things for Mia, so he never mentioned it. But now, with Claire appearing in Sweetwater, he knew things would never be the same. Mia, however, was unable to forgive. The pain of betrayal was too deep. She decided she needed space, time to heal. Ethan continued to write, but Mia never responded. She knew she needed to move on, even if it meant leaving behind what she felt for him. The days passed and Mia slowly began to rebuild her life. She returned to playing the piano, finding solace in music and the small community of Sweetwater. The relationship with her mother also strengthened, as Mia rediscovered her own identity, separate from her unrequited love for Ethan. The unexpected twist Claire brought ended up leading Mia down a path of self-discovery she never imagined she would take. The pain of betrayal turned into strength, and what seemed like the end of the world turned out to be just the beginning of a new journey for Mia, who, despite everything, was determined to find happiness on her own terms. The impact of Claire Montgomery's visit and the revelation that Ethan was married was devastating for Mia. For weeks, she isolated herself, trying to process the pain and betrayal she felt. Ethan's letters continued to arrive, but she left them untouched in a drawer, unable to open the envelopes that contained words that could soothe or hurt even more. Evelyn, although concerned about her daughter's emotional state, knew that Mia needed to find her own way to overcome what happened. The small town of Sweetwater, always welcoming, seemed colder now. The neighbors, although compassionate, knew what had happened, and the pitying looks they gave Mia only made her feel more isolated. But instead of letting herself wallow in pain, Mia began to realize that she needed to do something to get back on her feet. It was one clear morning as the sun shone through the kitchen window that Mia made an important decision. She took off the white sheet covering the piano in the living room, revealing the instrument she hadn't played in so long. Mia's fingers trembled slightly as she sat down on the bench and, with a deep sigh, pressed the keys. The familiar, comforting sound of notes filled the room, and for a moment, Mia felt like she was meeting an old friend. The music flowed from his hands like a pent-up torrent finally breaking free. He played with an intensity that I hadn't felt in years, pouring into the notes all the emotions he had been holding back: sadness, anger, unrequited love, and the desire for healing. As he played, tears fell freely, but they were no longer of pain. They were of relief, of liberation. From that day on, Mia made music a constant part of her life again. She began playing for Evelyn, bringing joy to her mother, who, despite her illness, had always encouraged Mia to follow her dreams. And then one day, Evelyn made an unexpected suggestion. "Mia, honey, you should consider studying music again," she said as Mia finished playing a soft melody. "You have so much talent, and I know that's what really makes you happy." Mia was silent for a moment, considering her mother's words. Since Ethan had left her life, she had avoided thinking about any long-term plans, focusing only on the present. But Evelyn's words planted a seed in his mind. Maybe it was time to reevaluate her dreams, to think about a future where she could be more than just her mother's caretaker. That night, after putting Evelyn to bed, Mia sat down with a blank notebook and began writing down her thoughts. She wrote about her emotions, about what she had learned over the past few months, and for the first time in a long time, she began to make plans for the future. She decided that she needed to regain the part of herself that she had left aside. However, before moving on, Mia felt she needed to close a chapter in her life. The next morning, she picked up all of Ethan's letters and decided she was finally ready to read them. Sitting on her porch, with the morning sun warming her face, Mia opened the first envelope. Ethan's words, written with sincerity and regret, revealed that he never intended to hurt her. He confessed that he was lost when he arrived in Sweetwater, trying to escape a marriage that was falling apart, but that, Ethan explained that Claire had been his wife, but their relationship was more of a facade than a true union. They had married young, driven by their family's ambitions and expectations, but true love never blossomed. When his marriage began to fall apart, Ethan threw himself into his work trying to find meaning in his career, but this took him further away from Claire. The trip to Sweetwater was supposed to be a fresh start, a chance to find peace. And that's where he found Mia. The letters also revealed Ethan's internal struggle. He knew he was in love with Mia, but he felt he had no right to ask for her forgiveness, knowing he had hidden an important part of his life. In his last letters, he wrote about his desire to return to Sweetwater, to try to regain Mia's trust. But he understood that it might be too late. Mia read each word carefully, feeling a mix of emotions. There was anger at what Ethan had done, but also empathy. She understood the torment he was experiencing, the difficulty of dealing with a failed marriage, and the conflicting feelings he had for her. But most of all, Mia realized that she needed to leave this story behind, that she needed to free herself so she could move forward. She decided to write one last letter to Ethan, thanking him for everything he had done for her mother, but making it clear that she needed space to rediscover herself. I told him that although I would never forget him, I was ready to move on, to find my own path in life. With this letter sent, Mia felt a weight lift off her shoulders. She knew the future was still uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, she felt free to make her own choices. He began looking for music programs, exploring possibilities of studying remotely or in nearby cities so he could continue caring for his mother while pursuing his dreams. Additionally, Mia began to reconnect with her community. She became involved in local projects, offering piano lessons to children and participating in church musical events. Her passion for music, which had previously been suppressed, began to blossom again, bringing joy not only to her but also to those around her. Evelyn, seeing the transformation in her daughter, also seemed to improve. The bond between mother and daughter grew stronger every day, and despite the difficulties, they found comfort in each other. The house, which had once seemed full of shadows, now resounded with laughter and music. Mia's decision to move on also brought new opportunities. One day, while performing at a local recital, Mia caught the attention of a retired music teacher, Mr. Thomas, who had recently moved to Sweetwater. He approached Mia after the performance, praising her talent and asking if she would be interested in advanced lessons. Mia, excited by the idea of continuing to improve herself, gladly accepted. Over time, Mr. Thomas became a mentor and friend to Mia, helping her refine her technique and explore new musical styles. He also encouraged her to consider songwriting, something Mia had never considered before. Inspired, Mia began to create her own songs, expressing in each composition the emotions and experiences she had experienced in recent years. As Mia delved deeper and deeper into the music, the pain of her past began to dissipate. She understood that although the scars remained, they did not have to define who she was. Instead, they could be a source of strength, a reminder of your ability to overcome challenges and keep moving forward. Mia, now more mature and confident, decided that she was ready to show the world the new person she had become. She organized a concert at the local church, inviting the entire Sweetwater community to hear her compositions. That night, under the soft lights of the altar, Mia played with all her soul, each note charged with emotion and meaning. At the end, the room was filled with applause, and Mia, looking out at the audience, felt a deep sense of accomplishment. She had found her path, and the church concert was a milestone in Mia's life, a symbol of her rebirth and her new determination to move forward. However, life, with its unpredictability, still held challenges that Mia could not anticipate. With each new step he took towards his future, the shadows of the past seemed to want to return to test his strength and conviction. Weeks after the concert, as Mia was increasingly immersed in her classes with Mr. Thomas and her songwriting, she received an unexpected visitor. It was a cold autumn day, yellowing leaves covered the ground, and Mia was practicing a new melody when she heard a knock on the door. When he opened it, his heart almost stopped. Ethan was there, on the threshold, visibly downcast, as if he was carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders. Mia was speechless, feeling a wave of conflicting emotions. What was he doing there? What could he want after so long? "Ethan, what are you doing here?" he asked, trying to remain calm. Ethan sighed, looking exhausted. "Mia, I know I'm the last person you expected to see, but I need to talk to you. Please give me a chance to explain." She hesitated, but knew she needed to hear what he had to say. With a silent nod, she allowed him to enter. They sat in the living room, the air thick with tension and not-so-distant memories. "What do you want, Ethan?" Mia asked again, her voice firmer this time. "I've made a lot of mistakes, Mia," Ethan began, his voice heavy with regret. "From the beginning, I knew I should have been honest with you about Claire. But the truth is, the moment I met you, I felt something so strong that I couldn't deal with what was happening in my life. I was running away from everything. From Claire, from my life in New York, from myself. But what I couldn't get away from was you." Mia looked at him, trying to understand his words. "And why are you here now?" "I've already moved on, Ethan. I thought you had too." Ethan tilted his head, feeling the weight of Mia's words. "I also tried to move on, but I couldn't. Life in New York, work, everything felt empty without you. I came back to try to fix what I broke, even if it's too late." Mia felt a mixture of compassion and anger. "You can't just come back here and expect everything to go back to the way it was before. I was destroyed, Ethan. I remade myself. I learned to live without you. And now you show up, wanting, what? For me to forgive you? And let us go back to the way we were?" Ethan lowered his head, embarrassed. "I don't expect you to forgive me. I just wanted you to know how much you meant to me, how much you still mean. I was wrong, but my love for you was always real. I needed to tell you this, even if it doesn't change anything." Silence fell over them, heavy and full of unspoken meaning. Mia felt the whirlwind of emotions inside her, the old pain mixed with the relief of finally hearing the truth. "And now?" she asked finally. "Right now, I want what's best for you, Mia," Ethan said sincerely. "If that means you never want to see me again, I understand. But if there's any chance, however small, that we can find a way together, I'm willing to do whatever it takes." Mia watched him, seeing the man who had hurt her deeply, but also the man who had been an important part of her life. She knew that what was coming was her choice, a choice that would define her future. And then, she made a decision. "I need time, Ethan," she said, her voice firm but not cold. "I can't just forget what happened, but I also can't deny that you were important to me. Maybe someday we can find a new beginning. But for now, I need to focus on myself and my mother. If you really love me, you'll respect that." Ethan nodded, accepting his decision with a gentle nod. "I respect it, Mia, and I'll be waiting always." With that, Ethan stood up and Mia followed him to the door. There were no more words, just one last look between the two, full of meaning. Ethan left, leaving Mia alone again, but this time with a new sense of control over her life. In the following days, Mia reflected on her choice. She knew she had made the right decision for herself. Ethan may have been an important part of her journey, but now she was focused on creating her own path, without depending on anyone else for her happiness. As autumn gave way to winter, Mia continued to grow in her music and her personal life. The Sweetwater community, which once felt suffocating, was now a place where she felt loved and supported. Mr. Thomas continued to encourage her, and Evelyn, although still fragile, expressed pride and joy in seeing her daughter blossom. One day, Mia received an unexpected call. It was from a prestigious music school in Austin, stating that they had seen his performance at the recital and that they would be interested in offering him a partial scholarship to study composition and piano. It was an opportunity she never imagined would come to fruition so soon. Mia was ecstatic, but she also knew it would mean leaving Sweetwater, at least temporarily. She spoke to Evelyn, who encouraged her to accept. "This is your chance, Mia," said Evelyn with a warm smile. "You will always be my daughter, but now it's time for you to be the artist you always wanted to be." And so, Mia prepared for a new phase of her life. However, before leaving, she organized one last concert in Sweetwater as a way of thanking the community that had supported her so much. On the night of the concert, the church was packed, and Mia played her heart out. knowing she was saying goodbye to one chapter of her life and opening the doors to the next. As she played the last piece, a melody she had recently composed, Mia felt an inner peace she had never experienced before. I was ready to move forward, to embrace the unknown and live fully. After the concert, as the community said goodbye to her, Mia received one last surprise. Outside the church, under the soft moonlight, Ethan was waiting. He didn't say anything, just handed her a small box. Inside, there was a necklace with a pendant in the shape of a musical note, simple but full of meaning. "So that you never forget how powerful your music is," Ethan said with a sad smile. "And so that you always know that I'm rooting for you wherever you are." Mia smiled, touched by the gesture. "Thank you, Ethan, I won't forget." And so they said goodbye. Not as lovers, but as people who shared a mutual respect and affection that transcended time and pain. Mia left for Austin, where her career blossomed. She became a renowned composer and pianist, taking her music to places she had never imagined. Evelyn, always by her side, saw her daughter achieve her dreams, and the connection between mother and daughter grew even stronger. In the end, Mia learned that true love begins with self-love, and that overcoming the past is the first step to creating a bright future. She had been reborn from the ashes, transforming her pain into notes and her scars into melodies that touched the hearts of everyone who heard them. Moving to Austin was a new beginning for Mia. The city, vibrant and full of life, offered opportunities that previously seemed like distant dreams. Every day, Mia found herself more immersed in music, exploring new compositions, participating in concerts, and meeting other people as passionate about the art as she was. His scholarship, although partial, was complemented by hard work and determination. Mia began teaching piano lessons in her spare time, teaching children and adults alike to love. Missing Sweetwater and especially her mother was ever present, but Mia made a point of visiting Evelyn whenever possible. With each visit, he saw the proud smile on his face, and that gave him even more strength to move forward. Evelyn, although still facing the challenges of her illness, seemed more alive than ever, knowing that her daughter was achieving her dreams. In the months that followed, Mia began to gain recognition in the classical music world. His compositions, full of emotion and refined technique, deeply touched those who heard them. The name Mia Harper began to appear in concert programs and in articles in specialized magazines. Her career, which once seemed like a distant dream, was now blossoming in ways she had never imagined. But with success also came moments of reflection. Mia often found herself thinking about Sweetwater, about everything she left behind. The small town that had shaped her, her mother's unconditional love, and even the difficult times with Ethan. Each of these experiences, as painful as it was, had contributed to the person Mia had become. And as time passed, she began to see all of this with a new look. Not one of pain, but of gratitude. During a quiet evening, while composing a new piece on her school's grand piano, Mia was overcome by a wave of nostalgia. She began to play a soft melody, almost without thinking, the notes flowing naturally from her fingers. It was a song about loss, love, and ultimately redemption. Each note seemed to tell a part of his story, from the dark days in Sweetwater to the moments of triumph in Austin. When Mia finished, she realized that this was the most sincere piece she had ever composed. He decided to call it Hearts in Flames, a tribute to the journey he had lived. I knew this composition would be special, something she would want to share with everyone who supported her along the way. And so, he decided to organize a big concert in Sweetwater where he would premiere Hearts on Fire for his community, his friends, and of course, his mother. The event was carefully planned, and soon the small town was in an uproar, preparing to welcome back its prodigal daughter. On the day of the concert, the Sweetwater church was packed. People from all over the city and even neighboring towns had come to see Mia perform. Mr. Thomas was there, as were all the friends Mia had made over the years. But most importantly, Evelyn was there, sitting in the front row, her eyes shining with pride. When Mia took the stage, the silence in the room was almost palpable. She looked at the audience, took a deep breath, and then started playing. Hearts in Flames filled the room, each note resonating with the story of his life, his struggles, and his victories. As she played, Mia felt like she was telling her story again, but this time, with the knowledge that everything she had been through had brought her to this moment. The piece ended with a soft chord, almost like a whisper, and for a moment there was absolute silence in the church. Then, the audience burst into applause, tears in the eyes of many. Evelyn, with shaking hands, applauded louder than anyone else, a tear of pride running down her face. After the concert, Mia was surrounded by friends and admirers, all wanting to express their gratitude and admiration. But it was when she saw Ethan, standing in the distance, that her heart skipped a beat. He hadn't come closer, respecting the space she'd asked for, but he was there, smiling with eyes filled with a mixture of pride and regret. Mia, without hesitation, went to him. They were silent for a moment until Ethan broke the silence. "That was the most beautiful thing I've ever heard," he said, his voice full of emotion. You did it, Mia. I'm so proud of you." Mia smiled, feeling an inner peace that she hadn't experienced in a long time. "Thank you, Ethan, and thank you for coming. It means a lot to me." They talked for a while, and although there was still unresolved tension, they both knew that this was a moment of reconciliation. Mia had moved on, and so had Ethan. They were now two people who had overcome their personal struggles and who, even if they weren't destined to be together, would always have a special place in each other's hearts. At the end of the night, as Sweetwater calmed down, Mia sat next to her mother on the front porch. They remained silent, enjoying the tranquility of the night. Evelyn held Mia's hand, squeezing it lightly. "You have found your way, my daughter," she said, her voice soft and full of affection. "I'm so happy for you." Mia smiled, feeling more at peace than ever. "I found it, Mom, and I'm ready to see where it takes me." That night marked the end of one chapter and the beginning of another for Mia. She knew there would still be challenges ahead, but she also knew that with music in her heart and her mother's love, she could face anything. And so, under the starry sky of Sweetwater, Mia Harper, the girl who once cared for her sick mother and who found the strength to rise from the ashes, was finally ready to embrace the future with courage and hope. 5 years have passed since the Sweetwater concert, and Mia Harper's life has taken turns she never could have imagined. The small town where it all began has always held a special place in his heart, but the world around him has expanded in extraordinary ways. Mia became an internationally recognized composer and pianist. His songs, full of emotion and depth, touched hearts in all parts of the world. Mia's songwriting not only reflected her personal experiences, but also captured the essence of universal emotions: love, loss, overcoming. Hearts in Flames became his masterpiece, frequently performed in large concert halls and recorded by renowned orchestras. Despite her success, Mia has never distanced herself from her roots. She bought a house in Austin, but Sweetwater remained her refuge, the place she returned to whenever she needed peace and inspiration. Her mother, Evelyn, was still struggling with the challenges of her illness, but as the years passed, the relationship between mother and daughter grew even stronger. Each of Mia's visits to Sweetwater was an event for the town, where she offered free recitals at the church, bringing the beauty. On one such visit, after an outdoor concert in a Sweetwater park, Mia was strolling through the town's quiet streets at dusk. She felt a deep gratitude for everything she had experienced and overcome. The path had been long and often difficult, but each challenge had contributed to his strength and determination. Mia continued walking until she reached the house where she grew up. The garden was blooming, a symbol of the continuous cycle of life. Evelyn, now more fragile but still full of spirit, was waiting for her on the porch. The smile on her face when she saw her daughter was the same one Mia would always keep in her heart. "Mia, you've brought so much pride to all of us," Evelyn said, her voice soft. "But what I'm most proud of is the fact that you've never forgotten who you are or where you came from." Mia smiled, sitting next to her mother. "Everything I am, Mom, I owe to you and what we learned together. Life may have tested us, but it never broke us." In that moment, as the sun set over the horizon, Mia realized that her life's journey had been not only a quest for success, but also a journey of self-discovery. She had learned the importance of loving, forgiving, and most of all, the importance of finding strength in herself. The future still held many surprises for Mia, but she was ready for whatever came. Music would remain his faithful companion, and each new composition would be a love letter to the life he chose to live. As the stars began to shine in the sky, Mia felt a deep peace in her heart. She knew she was exactly where she was supposed to be, surrounded by her mother's love and the eternal sound of the music she created. And so, as the first notes of a new melody began to form in her mind, Mia looked to the future with hope and confidence, knowing that whatever happened, she would always find the perfect harmony between what was, what it is, and what it will be.